Well, as we await those final vote tallies, I am joined now by Denver Mayor-elect Mike Johnston. Thank you so much for being here after a late night.
Thanks for having me. Delighted to be here.
We want to talk first. I mean, sadly, we do have an incident we're reporting in Denver this morning, a Denver officer involved shooting, and crime, of course, still top of mind for many voters right now as you take the lead in the city.
It is top of mind, and obviously sad to hear that. I don't know the details yet. It looks like the officer will recover,
Yes.
which is also great. But yeah, this is what we hear all across the city is folks that don't feel safe in their neighborhoods or safe downtown or worry about safety in schools. This has become a crisis all across the city and something we are really focused on addressing. How do we get back the officers we need and get the first responders back on the street who can make sure that when you do have a crisis, you can call someone who will show up, and that there are people there well before the crisis happens to help prevent those crimes from happening. I think matters just as much.
I know you've promised to recruit and add police officers. Another promise you've made is to really end homelessness in Denver within your first year, a priority of yours. How are you going to make good on that campaign promise as we look around the city and see those people living on the streets?
We're focused on our first term, so our first year would be extra ambitious, but we are focused on the first 4 years. I think what we know from this is that we've just found the systems that actually work, which is we know if we get people access to housing we can build quickly and affordably. That's why I focused on micro communities with tiny homes, because those can be built in 7 days to get people access to shelter. We get wraparound services on those sites, and then we help move people from the encampments where they are as a community to those new sites. We know people really succeed in those settings. So for me, it comes from the confidence that we've seen evidence of what works. We know what works. We have to now scale that, and the goal is we could live in a city where everyone will still have a chance to fall on hard times, unfortunately, but if we have the same number of folks each month who are falling into homelessness, or the same number that are coming out each month, that means you have an actual system that is catching people and getting them back on their feet. That's our real focus.
All right, well, we'll be watching that one. Affordability an issue even for people who can afford a home.
Yes.
We know that so many city leaders spoke out against the state's effort to encourage more high-density housing. Some of the proposals there maybe were not what cities wanted, to lose some of their control, but how would you bring that attainable housing, not affordable, not for low income, but for middle income families?
Yeah, I'm really glad you used the word attainable, because that is the focus. Is we have teachers and nurses and firefighters working full-time in the city, serving the city, who still can't afford to live in the city, and it's how do we get attainable housing for those people. And I do know that we need to add density. That means when you're next to a light rail stop or you're next to Colfax on a bus line, that's where we should have more density, and you don't need a car and you can use that to get to work. So we will focus on increasing supply around the city. My goal is to do 25,000 units that are permanently affordable, that are attainable to those people that are making 60, 70, 80,000 a year.
Mike Johnston, we will talk much more with you,
Thank you so much for
as
having
you
me.
get started with your very important work here. Thanks so much for being here.
I appreciate you inviting me.